What's up YouTube and Unreal developers? In this video I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough and overview of the Charts Pro Radial Dial Elite. So this is the massively upgraded and enhanced version of Charts Pro Radial Dial. There is really not much you can't do with this thing, really. If you were wanting anything to do with a circle or a portion of a circle that is either a dial or just an image or anything, it's a pretty versatile tool. So anyway, let's take a look at this UI builder, because seeing how this UI builder works will give you a really good idea of how the chart itself works. First off, let's actually look at how you can configure the UI and everything. So you can click any one of these and that will select that dial for changing around, and then you can go through, pick out your needle, whatever you want to use, and you can also come in here and show your frames. So let's try that one out, and you can hide any element you want to. So one thing you should know about hiding the frame though, there is also a procedurally generated frame, so if you want to hide that, then you would have to go into the properties for that frame color, which there is an exposed property for that. Just set the alpha to 0, and then this will be hidden as well, so you would just see the numbers. And of course you can hide those as well. But anyway, you get the idea. So you can also click this button right here. Now we're actually changing the center cap, and as you can see, that affects that right there. And of course some of these patterns you won't see very well right now because that center cap currently doesn't have a pure white color. So with any like textured image like this, you just kind of want to have it pure white if you want it to show up exactly as is. You're just kind of adding a tint to it really with the color. So yeah, you can hide anything you want. You can use this UI builder to select your image. There are, I believe I had 123 plus, I think 28 stylized needles. So yeah, 151 needles I think, and 98 dial frames. That sounds right. So yeah, about 250 textures you can pick from to configure everything here. So you get the idea with that. Anyway, there's also a handful of templates here. So you can see that all these are actually functional. That altimeter is in kilometers right now, so it would take quite a bit of flying up for you to see the difference. But you can also set the precision on there. I just didn't really, I forgot to change the decimal precision for this UI here. We also have a reflection of the clock here. And there is this handy stopwatch with some buttons I've added on there. And there's also another way you can view these templates. I'll show you that in just a second. Aside from the templates, you can save different dials. So as you can see, I already had one saved. You can go ahead and save this one I have selected here. And we'll save that one. Boom, boom. But I already had that last one right here, so let's just delete that. Boom, it's gone. Delete all. Pretty self-explanatory as far as all that goes. So let's look at the visual props. This is the critical thing to understand as far as using this tool. So all these properties in this panel are bound to the selected chart, so you can see that will update as I select a different chart. Simulate acceleration, this is pretty self-explanatory. If I set this off, it's just not going to do anything, because this is the base chart. This is the clock template, this is the compass template. So these actually have integrated functionalities for how that needle updates. This one does not, because I just left this blank so you could get an idea of how that works. So this is just simulating acceleration. But anyway, hide value label, that's pretty self-explanatory. Use custom dial. Again, there is a procedurally generated dial. So if we set the dial to hidden right here, this would actually be unchecked also, because this is bound to that. But yeah, I'll show you that in just a minute as far as how you can hide the rest of that. So starting angle, that's just going to affect, where the needle starts from and where the markers start from, and you can also add an offset to how these markers go. Degrees of full circle, again, pretty self-explanatory. One thing to know about this one, anything I think above 355, maybe it was, yeah, anything at or above that, it's actually going to adjust all the markers. I had to figure out some way to adjust the markers when it was going to have them overlapping. So as you can see, that does have that effect right there. So they won't overlap. You'll never have overlapping markers. You don't have to worry about that. But if you take it down to 340, you can see they're really close together there at the end. If you had actually a really large font on the markers, they might overlap a little bit. So, minimum value, again, not too hard to understand. Maximum value, same thing. Starting value, this is where the needle is going to start at. If you were, say, simulating acceleration, or if you just wanted to start out here for visual purposes for the player, or if it was going to have some binding that's going to update something else, whatever. So procedural frame border thickness, if you set this up to 1, it's going to come all the way. So you can make a full circle out of this, or you can just have it be a little line there. Let's see, let's turn that back on. Numerical marker quantity, let's say we just want 1. That looks weird though. There's 4, 12, you can do whatever you want here. And of course, you know, you can just kind of match that up with your values to get whatever even interval you want. So marker precision, you can add a decimal place on there. Value label precision, same thing. So that's most of the main visual properties there. So this one right here, this text editor, you can adjust the marker text if you have that selected. So let's go in here, we're going to say we're going to make these markers only 24 points. This only has an effect right here for the extra labels, so you don't have to worry about the values for this text value for the value of the marker labels. Let's add a little bit of spacing to these, and we're going to skew them just a little bit. Leave the outline as it is, text color as it is. So the position here for the marker labels specifically only uses the X, because this is actually a radial offset. And let's just go ahead and activate all that so you can see that. Okay, so we need to inset this a little bit more. Let's try -80. And now let's add some rotation so you can see what rotation does. So we're going to add a 90-degree rotation on that. So the rotation of the markers does not correlate to the actual position of the needle. So if you had a rotation, this is like an offset for how the markers appear, but not functionally, if that makes sense. Alright, so of course you can do all the same things with the value text. You can adjust everything on that. And extra text is just a little bit different because it actually adds a label. So let's say this is going to be -150. So there you go. Image settings, pretty easy to understand. Here's our needle color, our frame color, center cap color, and again, you can set anything invisible by just setting these to have an alpha of 0 also. And there's the center cap size. I'm not even going to explain that. That's just easy to understand, isn't it? Wait, let's go back and set these to have some opacity. Okay, let's transform. This is really mostly just for the UI builder here. This translation does get saved in the information in the save struct, but for the most part I really just included it for the UI builder here, but you could potentially use this to let your users configure their own dials completely. So you can set the scale here. It looks kind of wonky, but yeah. You can shear it, and we can rotate it. So yeah, that is everything for the UI builder. There is also just this kind of little sample. You can hide that and show the actual sample level, and then here is our functional templates. These are the 5 functional templates I included. So we got our stopwatch that starts automatically. You can also set this to not start automatically. That's a pre-exposed property. And yeah, we can cycle the accuracy of the clock here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the UI builder. So you pretty much get the idea as far as how these properties work now. these are all the pre-exposed properties on the base class dial. So there's our starting angle in degrees, or degrees of full circle, min, max, thickness, numerical marker quantity, marker text props, and again for the markers, the text val is not relevant, and you can see I've added a lot of tooltips on here, so if you ever have any questions, you should probably just kind of take a look at the tooltips, and that might help as well. And I also have a Discord that you can find in the link for this product. So yeah, pretty easy to see kind of everything that's going on there. So one last thing I do want to actually show. First off, here is the actual main widget. This is widget blueprint radial dial 2D. So that is what is displayed right here. And again, this is a clock and this is a compass. But so the main thing to understand, there's update current value. This is probably the most important function. So you're gonna call this and feed it in the value in real terms. So if you had the dial going from 0 to 160, and say you fed it 80, it should put the needle halfway between your starting and your finishing angle. So these, you can also use these at any time. So like update dial markers will actually remove all of those widgets and then add them back, so you can call this safely if you ever change anything about those, and that should fix all of your markers if you make any changes to the properties for them. Same thing with the extra labels and extra needles. Adjust text label props. You can feed it some new set of properties for either the marker value or the extra labels. If you feed it extra label info, it's going to actually make a new one. For removing a label, you would actually call this instead. So yeah, these two right here, this actually gets called in update rotation for extra needle. So this, you can feed it an image and it's going to tell it exactly how to rotate. So you'll see that in action in some of my templates, and I'll show you that in just a second as well. I've kind of tried to put everything that's not a pre-exposed property into a category, so you can just kind of see all these right here, nice and tidy. There is a lot. Anyway, let's take a look at one of the templates here. So this is obviously just a subclass of the widget blueprint radial dial 2D. So yeah, this is how you can kind of build on that to make really anything that you want. So as you can see here, I've actually only got two things going on. In the pre-construct, I'm going to find all of my extra needles and assign them to variables, just kind of storing them for convenience. You don't really have to do this, but it just made it a little bit more convenient, really. So yeah, let's take a look at what's going on here. So we don't need to worry about the dial widgets. That's all just the procedurally generated stuff. Internal use, obviously, same thing. But anyway, so we have a couple things up here for the clock, so you can change the precision and stuff pretty easily. Actually, wait, second wouldn't change any of the hands because that's just affecting how quickly it ticks. But as you can see, if we change it down to minute or hour, we lose a hand. So anyway, right here, and the extra needle info. So the hour hand is the main hand. That's the main needle right here. So as you can see, it starts at 12, and I got an image for that. You can set the alignments in the image info in here and stuff if you wanted to change anything about the size or anything like that. So yeah, we got a minute, second hand, and then the index 2 is actually the sun and moon here. So in this function, find and store clock hands from extra needles, we're getting the 0th, we're storing that as the minute hand, and we're setting the visibility based on the precision here. Same thing for the second hand and the sun and moon. So we go back to the event graph here, and we can see that every time the event ticks, we update the clock hands. So updating the hour hand, we are just getting the time and performing some functions on it, and Same thing with the rest of the other three functions, of course. So yeah, it's really that simple. You can really do anything. If you want to add extra needles, just add them in there and get a reference to them, and then perform the same functions on them. So we can see for the hour hand, though, one difference, we are updating the current value, but let's look at the other one here. So here's a minute hand. We're updating the rotation for extra needle image. So that is kind of the one difference between how you update these. Just for convenience, I made an extra function for those. So yeah, that's pretty much all there really is to using this product. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Again, I have a Discord that is for studio support, and you can find the link to this in my product page. So yeah, thanks so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you found this tool helpful, and hope you have a good day.